Here's the key, guys. A professional doesn't consult his feelings. He consults the math. He consults the math and says, what are my obligations today? What are my commitments today to the math? How many of these hands am I going to see? How many of these conversations am I going to have? I couldn't care less whether somebody's stupid or not. It's not a personal reflection on me as to whether this person is stupid or smart or open-minded or closed-minded. Me encountering this person is a task that I have to do. It's another number that I'm going to add to this math. And at the end of the day, the math is going to produce the results. As sure as I'm standing here, guys, it's not an option that if you saw 10,000 hands of poker, that you would have encountered pocket aces about 50 times. You'd have got them every 200 hands. You would have seen pocket aces 5 times per 1,000 times 10. You'd have seen 50 pocket aces in 10,000 hands. That's just going to be a fact. It's a fact about the future based on the math, and that's the most important thing that we've got to do. So 2 things. 1, we've got to concentrate our focus on the money. Number 2, we need to understand what the money is for. It's not for changing people's minds. It's not for being God's gift to closing. Closing solar is fairly easy. Solar sells itself. You do need to learn how to close. People see a solar presentation, they see the numbers and they say, this makes sense, I should do this. That's not necessarily magical, guys. Solar's very, very compelling. The magic, which is not magic but math, is getting yourself in a position to close 2 or 3, 4 times a day. The recipe for a 7-figure income is to be in 2, 3, or 4 presentations a day and close a majority of them. If you do that, you're going to have a 7-figure income in solar sales. That's just a fact about the future. Now, how are we going to do that? Very, very simple. We're going to do that by employing the math. We've got to change our state. The math is never going to happen. You're never going to have 30 or 40 conversations a day if you don't have the first conversation of the day. And I'm going to tell you guys, it's not the caboose of the train that kills you. It's the locomotive. If you get hit by a train, you were killed by the locomotive. It's the first one that makes the difference, not the 10th one. And people talk about their math. They talk about, I'm going to get 10 sits today. I'm going to have 10 sales this week. None of that matters if you're not having the first conversation. Now, guys like Jesse that have people in a call center, he sits their butt down at a certain time of the day and he starts serving them calls. They show up in his headset. They have no option but to not say, hello, and then spit out a conversation and then get the word no most of the time. An overwhelming number of the time to get the word no. But he's putting their butt into a chair. He's serving the customers up to them into their ear and they're talking to them. In the door-to-door environment, the hard part is getting your butt into your work clothes. Getting you in your work clothes out the front door. The hardest door in this deal is the front door, and then getting you out of the front door into your car, getting your car to the turf, and then getting you out of your car door. Those are the 2 hard doors, the front door and the car door. Once you're out of the car door, and then you just project yourself onto a doorstep, somebody answers, and you start talking, and they start talking, you're gonna leave with a no thank you an overwhelming majority of the time. That doesn't matter. You don't care about that. What we care about for me and what I know about me is that I have 7 conversations, I typically have an appointment. Now that's a world-class number, right? I'm a world-class prospector. I've been prospecting, I've been knocking on doors literally for 40 years, since I was 12 years old. And so I've literally got that kind of experience. I'm the guy putting on the training class. I'm the guy that has people going with me. So my world-class number, my math is 1 out of 7. You're not gonna have that math right away, but you're not gonna have any math if you don't have number 1. And so you'll hear me talk about this all the time. I'm never going to quit talking about it. It's the most important thing there is. What we're all dealing with is we're subject to the laws of nature. The law of nature we're dealing with here is Newton's first law, which is an object at rest tends to stay at rest unless opted on by another force, another vector of energy, which can propel that object in motion. Once that object is in motion, we're now dealing with Newton's second law, which is that an object in motion tends to stay in motion. I was super busy this morning. I had a bunch of stuff going on. I had to do this, do that, the 8 o'clock, no matter what call is going on. I got literally 90 seconds or so. And I'm like, you know what? I haven't done my push-ups. Today is the perfect day to really and actually do the mini habit of just one push-up. I'm gonna get down, I'm gonna do the actual check mark on the actual mini habit of one push-up. And guess what? I did one push-up. But guess what? I actually did 10. I got no time. I'm in a rush. It's the worst possible moment. I'm not capable of doing one push-up. If I get myself out to the turf, find one home that somebody looks like they are at home, I get up to that doorway and I say hello to them, there's almost zero chance. First of all, I've got a pretty good chance of getting that one appointment, like that weird thing I'm telling you about. But then secondly, there's almost zero chance now that I'm moving, now that I'm starting to think about the money instead of the fear. When I haven't been on that first door, I'm not thinking about the money. My brain is broken. I'm thinking about the fear. Once I start rocking, once I'm in motion, now I start thinking about the money. I see somebody in their front yard watering the yard 2 or 3 houses down, and I start thinking, if I get that guy to be an appointment, 1 out of 7 conversations, that happens. Man, I just had one, he's gonna be number 2. I'm literally gonna be a handful of conversations away from an appointment that's potentially worth $3,000, $6,000, $9,000. Now that I'm in motion, now I'm gonna feel silly. Once I do that first push-up, I'm gonna literally feel silly if I don't just knock out the rest of the 10 push-ups. That's just the way that it's going to do. So guys, what we're gonna need to do, we're gonna address the math, but all the math is predicated. All of the math is predicated on that there's no math, the math that starts with 0. If you've got a day with a 0 in it, if you have a day with a bagel in it, that math is going to end up being 0. Anything divided by 0 or multiplied by 0 is 0. You divide by 0 and you get imaginary number, just a messed up, the calculator says error. Doesn't even work. Nothing works if we're starting with a 0. And so concentrate and focus the primary energy around math on the number 1, on getting to one door and having one conversation. And remember, that's not going to be a yes, except in weird circumstances. It's going to be a no. We want to get it out of the way. We want to get up on a door and get our worst pitch out of our mouth, like knocking on a door and having somebody come to the door and say, hey, I sell solar. There's no chance you want a solar system, is there? Like, that's a horrible pitch. I don't recommend the pitch, but if you did that 100 times in a day, there's a pretty good chance you'd catch the one guy that says, that's kind of weird. It almost seems like that Google thing where I say something out loud and the next thing you know, Google is serving me up ads. I'm sitting here talking to my wife about solar last night, and presto, there's a guy on my door talking about solar. That's not going to happen every time, but if you had 100 conversations today that started out with, you don't want solar, do you? It would literally be like that Google ad going, whoa, well, that's kind of weird. I am actually interested in solar. Strange that you're here. Yeah, let's get a quote going over here. So if you can create mini habits that cause that one appointment to happen, all the rest of this math is going to work itself. All right, we're going to get into that math, and that math is going to work itself if you get the idea. Guys, the whole idea of this mastermind, the whole idea of this course is about ideas. There's a handful of ideas that are going to make the difference and be the reason that you succeed, or not getting these ideas is going to be the reason that you fail. And the idea is that the most important prospecting call is the first one every single day.